forward to stepping into the world of what dilution, and distortion looks like. And I'm going to hold my breath and kick it over to you, the guy with the cool hat with the raised Thunderbolt logo. Mr. Callaghy, what's happening on this Mastery Monday?
Yes. So we are going to drop in a second. Do we have our special guest co-host for the Huddle ready and teed up yet, Fernando?
Not yet. So give us a few moments and we'll let you know when he's ready.
All right. Very cool. So the question for today is, what does the election, the bubonic plague, like cats, right, and the Soviet chess club have to do with you? Like, what does it have to do with you? And we talked about deletion, dilution, distortion regularly. And a very, very interesting dynamic occurred on Friday. So the interesting dynamic was I spoke into a number of different things. And I said at some point, and because we stand for like truth and perspective, and we're not dropping into a political conversation today, we're dropping into like a truth conversation. And so I discussed who I had voted for previously, which I said might upset some people on the left. But then I also said that I had charged my son with looking into election fraud. And Fernando, lo and behold, and I said that we could not, not, find any evidence of election fraud that would cause a change. We could not. So Fernando gets a message over the weekend that goes, hey, somebody's like upset, they're like, oh my God. And, he's talking about that there's election fraud. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no,
Tyler,
we said
I want you to look at everything.
I want you to find any evidence of election fraud. And so the initial point for the jump off for today has nothing to, like, I love selecting provocative and charged issues, right? As we lean into like truth and reality, I get like all kinds of emotions are flying, and we're going to speak into it this morning, a bunch of things this morning, right? But my jump off point is sometimes our listening could turn off because we hear something and then we don't hear what else is said, because our neural conditioning is if a person says A, then they're going to say B, C, D, right? So if a person, believes something about this person, then therefore they're going to say that there's this that occurred. And that's actually the opposite of what was literally said on Friday. Now, what does that have to do with anything? We're going to drop in and talk about all that today. So do we have our special guest yet there, Fernando?
We are in communication and working on it.
Okay, very, very cool. So with that said, actually for fun, let's maybe roll the clip from Friday. So can we have somebody from the Unblinded team? Chaz, can we roll that clip?
Tyler,
yep, that is on the screen.
I want you to look at everything.
And ready to go?
Tyler, I want you to look at everything. I want you to read the papers. I want you to look at everything. Because Tyler has the most analytical, neutral mind imaginable. He is a laser beam for truth. And he laughs a lot, including at himself, right? But he's a laser beam for truth. I said, I want to know what facts and evidence exist right now, not what Rudy Giuliani is saying, not what somebody else is saying. I wanted to know the facts. Go tell me how many affidavits exist, what they say, how many votes that could consist of, what was fundamentally undermined, ... And I'll just give you an update so we don't avoid the uncomfortable. So far, my son's research turns up.
Yeah, we're here.
Essentially.
All right. So that ends the video, and our guest is also here.
There's more happening, friend.
Hey, Chaz, can you keep that video going?
Yeah, let me go ahead and put that back up. I think the short one got played. 1 second, guys. I apologize.
Tyler, I want you to look at everything.
The suspense is beautiful.
And this is not, I want you to read the papers. I want you to look at everything. Because Tyler has the most analytic, not what somebody else is saying. I wanted to know the facts. Go tell me how many affidavits exist, what they say, how many votes that could consist of, what was fundamentally undermined, ... And I'll just give you an update so we don't avoid the uncomfortable. So far, my son's research turns up. essentially it's laughable. And that's not the answer I want to hear, because I'm a little bit nervous about Joe Biden being president. But so far, and if anybody has better information, they can send me. And I don't mean innuendo. Like, I mean, like Mary Smith signed an affidavit that said this machine did this and that did this and the postal workers did that. He looked at the legal papers, and the legal papers have like no facts. And he went to look for truth.
Good day.
And my point in leaning this deeply into the uncomfortable, which I'm sure is charged, I probably charged
somebody
every single person.
heard me say that there was election fraud. I said the opposite on Friday. And this has nothing to do with the election. It has to do with our listening of things when we become emotionally charged. We become emotionally charged. So, do we have our fun guest for today?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, Tyler Callaghy, what in the world does the election, the bubonic plague, like cats, and perhaps, the Soviet chess club have to do with anything? And these people, these fine people. So how you doing, bud?
I am doing great. It appears that living in 2020 doesn't really feel like it's 2020, does it? It feels like we've gone a little bit off track, doesn't it? Right? Like, you ever see Back to the Future? Like 2015, 2020 was supposed to be like something different than it turned out to be. And lately I've been thinking about kind of why that has turned out to be the case. And it all comes down to distortion and lack of truth at the end of the day. And not only that, but as we so often talk about, a lack of ability to call that out and combat it directly. So that's where I'm coming from today.
Awesome. So Ty, can you lean into a little bit about the difference between correlation and causation, and like flat Earth, bubonic plagues, cats, the election, like Soviet chess clubs? Like, what does it have to do with these folks and their money, their time, and their magic?
Yeah. So you and I got to talking a lot yesterday on the phone, and we hashed, we magic happened, as happens when we collaborate. But the conclusion that we reached ultimately is that people's brains haven't changed over the last 5,000 years. Like, society didn't change people changed society, right? We're always born the same. The society we grew up in is different. And now I think we're really all struggling with a society that has now advanced past what our evolutionary brains can really tolerate. Because I was really thinking a lot about this yesterday. Like, when everyone was monkeys, it didn't matter if the threat was real. You didn't have time to wait and see if there was actually a lion behind the bush. You had to run, right? Accuracy was not something that is innately part of the animal kingdom. Factual accuracy. We, as humans, as society progressed, realized that factual accuracy was what we were looking for. That's how you keep progressing, keep evolving. Our society went to look for that, and we did not individually, which is the problem that we find ourselves having today.
Yeah. Ty, what did people think caused the bubonic plague?
As most things then, God being angry at any number of things. Then I believe it was mostly cats, which may have had some part in spreading the plague, and also Jewish people who were actually targeted because their community had unique practices that prevented the spread of the plague, certain sanitary practices. And people thought, that they were basically causing it. So not the fleas or germs that actually caused it. Put it that way. So humans correlated those things, that the fact that, for example, Jews were getting the plague less in some cities, and they took that as causation, which is what I was touching on before, is that we're not good at recognizing cause and effect. We just notice patterns. That's what animals do. That's what evolution is animals recognizing patterns and their bodies adapting to those patterns. And so,
okay, go ahead.
go on. What were you going
I
to
was
say?
going to say, so how would you describe the difference between causation, the mistakes that we make about causation and correlation, leaning into any example that you want to make?
So on a base level, the error we all make is when two things happen together, humans have a natural tendency to assume those things impacted one another, that they're related. So going all the way back in time, if farmers would, sacrifice an animal at the beginning of the season and it rained a lot that year, well, now sacrificing animals makes it rain, right? We know that there's no cause between those things because we have science now. They didn't know that. They thought that there was a cause between sacrificing an animal and the rain, or putting a spoon under your pillow and it snowing, right? Any of these things, like there's a million examples. The point is that those things actually don't cause each other at all. They just happened to happen at the same time. And that's the error that humans continuously make, is that correlation and causation are the same thing. In the case of the current pandemic, in many places, it was the introduction of 5G internet to communities that people said was now causing the spread of coronavirus. And actually, a doctor came up with that conspiracy theory, which gave it credence. And that's something that we can keep unfolding, is how smart people become misled. But that's an example. We have 5G in neighborhoods now, and there's a pandemic, and they must be related.
Right. Now, I was discussing earlier that I had been offered $100,000, right, retainer, to have Callagy Law begin to look into election fraud. And if there was election fraud, right, I would. How do I feel, Ty? Just like, I know this is an amazing group of people, we're connected, but from your seat, watching me my entire life, what is your perspective, having been on the club baseball teams, watching me disrupt practices of field usage and local political corruption, my approach to life, Arizona trials, you working in the mock trials, everything that you've seen and experienced, how do I relate to injustice and a lack of truth? Like, how do those things affect me?
In a bad way. Those are like putting a cat in the bathtub. Not good together.
And would you say, almost in a way that you at times said, Dad, it's not your business, don't worry about it. Like, why are you getting twisted up and jumping into all these fights?
Yes, that happened on more than a handful of occasions. Without a doubt.
Okay. And I apologize for those occasions. Sometimes it's worked though quite well. Is that fair?
Yes, in hindsight.
Okay. So if I thought there was election fraud, right? And in light of where I think my influence skills are in the world, what would happen if I thought there was election fraud? What might happen to how I spent every single minute of every single day of my life for the next 3 months?
Well, certainly Adam and Fernando would really be really manning the ship here, because you would just jump off and go to Washington or whatever was needed to go combat that corruption. I mean, you just drop everything for it.
Right. And so I asked the only person I knew who I could trust to look into what was happening. And how does seeking of objective truth fit into your consciousness and your being, Tyler?
That is who I try to be every day. Who I often fail at being, but that's what I strive for, is knowing the truth.
Right.
But are you bent on seeking the truth?
Oh yeah, seeking. Yeah, finding out, honing. Yeah, absolutely.
Like your every waking minute.
Hellbent. Yes, all day, every single day, I seek out truth about the world that we live in.
Right.
Yeah.
And how frustrated do you get by how distorted people get away from truth? Like how much does that upset you, make you crazy? If I say something that's not true or real or objectively provable, or mom does, or your sisters do, or your grandparents do, your friends do, people on TV do, how does that sit inside of you?
That bothers me. That bothers me an immense amount. Yeah, that
Where does that
really
come
gets
from?
under my skin.
Where does that come from, by the way, do you think?
I don't know. I think when I was young, right before every kid had a cell phone, kids would just say stuff that was that I knew was wrong, but I couldn't fact check them on it. So I kind of just had to argue with them. And it was like everyone's facts had the same weight. And it bothered me that my facts, which were the right facts, didn't. That really irked me. Like still to this day, I think about some conversations I had in kindergarten where I the things people said bothered me a lot.
Yeah, because from a
And
very young age, you were reading books,
mhm.
like the Guinness Book of World Record, books
Yeah,
about
I read a lot. I read a lot of nonfiction. I didn't really take to sports as much at a young age.
yeah. And so you're absorbing information and data
Constantly. Yeah.
in a big way, right? Okay. So did you set out, and by the way, I'm not asking everybody to believe this. I'm offering you a possibility of how to think about this by us picking the most emotionally charged issue we can possibly think about. And as you say what you're about to say, Tyler, what do you think the emotional reactions and the listening of people who are on the side of there was election fraud, what do you think is happening inside of them right now? Like
I know what's happening inside of them because I've been in that chair before where I've heard something that directly countered what I thought was correct. And that's a really difficult thing to sit with. To sit with something that you think is so wrong and shallow and naive. Because I've been in that, I've been on the other side. I've been on the side of the minority opinion, the minority view, like the not mainstream, where people are like, that's ridiculous. That's a tough thing to sit with. Yeah, so I empathize.
yeah. And were you and I not thrilled in 2016 when Donald Trump won the election?
Thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. Yeah.
Okay. And were we thrilled because we agree with Donald Trump's communication style?
No. Absolutely not.
In a nutshell, we're not getting political, just to contextualize this.
Mhm.
It's because I thought that Hillary Clinton's viewpoint was that there should not be an America eventually. And that's from my own reading of the people that her and Barack Obama went to my university, Columbia. The people he cited as mentors had a very different viewpoint than I did. So I would try to get into their minds. I didn't listen to what other people said. And my vantage point was that their eventual outcome was there would be one global world and no America. I did not think that was good for the world. We could debate that reasonably, but I wasn't voting for Donald Trump because he was a racist or big. Tyler, are you a racist?
No.
Okay. Do you seek truth and the ability for good things to happen to people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been taught as a child, do I love people?
Yeah. More than me. A lot of the time. More overtly, anyway.
Yeah. And do you think that my boundaries sometimes are too loose and I let too many people too close?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, do you and I believe at this moment
that there was any election fraud in the 2020 election that would cause a change in the outcome of the vote?
No.
Okay. And how could you say something? Like, where did you go to look for information?
Everywhere. So I went deep, but you don't have to go deep, because there's the deeper you go, you just find more people repeating what was already on TV. So first I went through the mainstream media. I went through Times, Wall Street Journal, NBC, like all of them. There's nothing. There's nothing that any mainstream media outlet, including Fox News, there's no facts. Like there's no claim. There's just there was fraud, which is not an argument. And it would be one thing if Trump was saying that, but it's his lawyers. They don't have, like, I'm taking business law right now, and I grew up in the house of a lawyer. I got used to seeing how lawyers approach issues. Trump's legal team is not approaching this in that methodical way that I've seen you, Michael Smikin. Like, I've seen you guys do things. That's not how Rudy Giuliani is handling this. And I didn't know that there was that. Okay. Then I went to the non-mainstream media. I dug through YouTube, Reddit. I dug through Twitter, like Facebook, all the way through, finding links, finding videos. And there's this interesting phenomenon, especially on YouTube, where there are channels that look like news channels. They have a desk, they have someone dressed up in a suit with papers, they have a screen behind them. It looks just like the news, except it's not the news. It's people giving their opinions. So you get on and they start talking about how, this election that was obviously stolen. These are big claims. Like those are like, for the leaders of the free world to have an election be stolen, that would be big news. Would you agree?
Pause. Are you happy? Are you, Tyler, happy? And do you think it's a good thing, like, as you look at the landscape, that Joe Biden is president? Do you believe that he is the best choice to be president?
No. And I don't think there's one person on this call that would say that out of everyone in America, they would pick Joe Biden to be president.
Right. So we are not sitting here as fans of Biden.
No.
We are fans.
I didn't vote for Joe Biden myself. I didn't vote for Donald Trump either.
Okay. And are you a fan? And by the way, why didn't you vote for Biden or Trump?
Because I personally, right, it's a personal decision.
Yeah.
Could not handle the weight of what either man would do over the next 4 years. That my vote would lead to either one doing what they were about to do.
Okay.
I couldn't have that personally on my conscience.
Okay.
But I understand why people voted for whoever they voted for.
Yeah.
That's just my take.
Right. And so as we now remember, if you're hearing this through the prism of like just about the election, we're missing the point, because we're going about 7 other places in the next few minutes. So as you dug into all of these things, including, didn't you review the legal papers filed by the Trump team?
Briefly, I didn't go through the affidavits and like read them personally, but I went through what was and what was not thrown out, and most of the affidavits were just completely thrown out. The ones that it's interesting because the fake, this is gonna sound weird, the YouTube news people that are not mainstream media, right? That's how I'll phrase that. They put out their best claims and evidence and the best affidavits, and then you can Google what they come up with as their best reasoning, and it's fake. So, like, for example, Dominion Software is an election software company. They make voting machines and stuff like that. A commonly reported thing on conservative, non-mainstream outlets, so not Fox News, is that the CEO of that company was basically bragging about how they could like steal elections and stuff. That's not true. Like, I read what he said. He didn't say anything like that. He talked about elections in the Middle East sometime in the early 2000s. Like, it was a completely different scenario, but basically everyone took that to mean, well, the CEO of the voting companies is in cahoots with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, China, international globalists, communists, whoever else they throw onto that, wagon of, and George Soros. Like, it becomes that. The more you read about voter fraud and election fraud, the more you see the same things pop up over and over again that are not really things. They're just ideas that people use to just kind of scare people, more or less.
And do you find it a lot different than, what does that have to do with flat earth theory and like spoons under pillows and like the snow?
It's the same thing. So flat earth is not different. It's the same thing, but it's an interesting example of the same thing. Like, more people arguably believe the earth is flat now than they did 300 years ago. I don't think that's even arguable. I'm pretty sure that's a fact.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So say that one. Can you lean into like how we don't evolve in our thinking necessarily?
Yes. So we were talking about this a lot yesterday. It's that we, as people living in the West, have this Western perception of humanity, which is that we've been constantly progressing and will continue to constantly progress in our thinking, our science, our rationality, all those things. That's not the path of humanity. The path of humanity is a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down. We become more rational and less rational. We had the Enlightenment 200 years before the Holocaust happened, right? We had one of the most freeing, liberal thinking moments in humanity. And then hundreds of years later, we devolve into genociding each other over race and religion. Like, those things are not linear. The ancient Greeks had more science 3,000 years ago than they did in Salem when they were hanging witches in the 1600s. So, like, there's this myth that we're always getting better, and we're not. Humanity is not always getting better. We go back a lot. We take steps back. We had the Middle Ages. Like, that was a 1,000-year period where nothing happened. And then the Renaissance. So the point of that is, we individually and as a society have to ensure that the next generation improves, not devolves. We have to make sure that our kids and their kids and their kids think more rationally, practice better science, better experiments, come up with less biased thoughts. And these are really hard things to do because every generation has the potential to do the exact opposite. We can go through historical examples all day long of when kids, ratted out parents. It's just,
guys, no, say that. Go ahead.
The Hitler Youth was a thing for a reason. Hitler knew that you needed to take out generations and that you could. It was possible. That worked. The kids ratted out the parents in that situation. That was a failure. That was a failure to evolve the next generation in a positive direction for a whole nation. And there's a million reasons why that happened, obviously. Like, the history of the Weimar Republic in Germany is way too complicated to talk about right now, but it happened. We need to constantly be, and personally also, humans can be more rational in their teens than when they're 60. We've seen that. People become Scientologists when they're old. Like, that's crazy. So we need to personally keep trying to be more rational, keep analyzing our own thoughts, keep critiquing ourselves, fact-checking ourselves, and also ensure that the next generation follows that.
Yeah. And a couple quick things. So people are like, oh my God, the world is, we can go 3 more quick points.
and tie this into your money, time, and magic. So, number one, people are like, oh my God, the world is like devolved into total insanity. Can you just share with people like what 18th century Europe was like when people really were living in an insane space?
Yeah. So first of all, this is insane for what our standards should be. Like, we should be doing better than this. However, it's not falling apart. Like, society is not crumbling. I just did an essay the other day about the unification of Germany and like Central Europe in the 1800s. It's like the 1850s, 60s, 70s. Prussia was in 3 wars with 3 different countries inside of a decade. So we're not doing that. We're not sending, like, I'm not fighting in a war right now that I was drafted into. It could be worse. Oh, and by the way, in that war, twice as many people died of disease than as fighting. So disease was also common then. People just didn't talk about it as much. So we've gotten a lot better over time. We have a lot to be grateful for. And then we also have a lot that we need to work on.
Right.
And the media distorts that. They make things seem worse and better than they are based on what people want to watch.
Yeah. Speak into that social dilemma. Why is it still? Why are people on this call so outraged on 2 different sides of an election, 2 different sides of coronavirus and its truth, 2 different sides of Black Lives Matter? Like, why is the polarization so powerful today? And how easy might it be to begin to think differently?
So I assume most of the people, not most, a lot of the people on this call have seen The Social Dilemma. If you haven't, it is a Netflix documentary about big tech, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, etc. And they have a lot of takeaways from that. But the number one takeaway that I had, because I watched it again the other day, was that we don't all see the same world at all. We each have our own internet world that is crafted by algorithms on these websites. So we're all running around with our feed, our homepage, our trends, whatever, being personally tailored, not to what we should see, to what the math has calculated we'll spend the most time on.
Say that one more time, bud. Say that one more time.
We are shown what computers have calculated to be most profitable for us to look at, which means things that the app believes we will spend the most time looking at for advertisers. That's the goal. That's what their product is. We are the product of social media companies because they're free. Advertisers pay to advertise to us, and that's it. So how does that fit into distortion? Well, what each of us will spend the most time on is entirely different. I look at my YouTube feed, and it's filled with like history videos, chess videos, like I play a lot of chess, movie reviews. I look at my friends, and it's NBA highlights. It's the dangers of illegal immigration. It's anything. It's how to cook. It's Mormonism. It's how to fix a TV. It's whatever you're interested in. It's whatever you watch. So you say, how could someone think that the election was stolen? Because you look at your Twitter feed. But if you look at someone else's, and if you just read that and you had no other context for what America was going through, you would say, I can't believe that there's people that don't think the election was stolen. Look at all of this, all these people, all these smart people talking about it and saying how obvious it all is. Like, what do you mean? Or flat earth, or vaccines, or like whatever you want to throw in there, it's all the same. And that is how social media, and it's not even the fault of social media companies. That's the crazy part. All these engineers that they have on the Social Dilemma talking about the algorithms that they created, they didn't do that on purpose. They just said we wanted to make money. They didn't mean to polarize America. They didn't mean to cause massive unrest. They didn't mean to cause, economic crises. Like Facebook has caused a lot of unjust harm in this world over the last several years. a lot of good, a lot of harm, and they didn't mean that. It just is the world that we live in, and we have to be aware of that.
Yeah. And how not present do you think people are to the fact that what they are reading and reviewing on a nonstop basis is not real and true, no matter what they believe in? They're just being fed things that are going to keep them watching, truthful or not, nonstop. How present to that reality do you think people are?
Not at all, because everyone falls into the same trap of their own bubble. Because everyone, and this is something that happened to me a lot back in the day before I realized like what to look for and what not to look for. Like people don't like to be wrong. We don't like to be wrong. It's not a good feeling to be wrong, especially to be wrong about something that you've been saying to other people for a long time. That's a very uncomfortable thing for us to cope with inside. So people don't like to confront themselves, and they're not even aware in the first place to confront themselves. So yeah, they're not aware to that.
Yeah.
Not aware of
And
that.
you believed a lot of things 5 years ago that you no longer believe.
A lot. Yeah.
And not because somebody told you to believe differently. Like I didn't tell you to believe differently. You just kept seeking truth. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, one of the things that absolutely showed that was immigration. Like I fell pretty hard for the Build the Wall campaign, which is, I'm not proud of that now, but that's the truth. I thought illegal immigration was a significant public health and safety threat to this country. It's not, but I didn't know that. I found out years later as I was doing some research for something else, and I kept digging, and I realized, oh shit, like immigrants don't. In fact, in most places, they cause less crime than the inhabitants. So, why did I think that? Well, because Donald Trump.
Did a college professor teach you to think that, or did you fact check all these things on your own?
No, I fact checked. That was before college. I fact checked that. I got off that bandwagon, but and I did some more reading on like different political stuff. But
now, footnote, by the way, do you think Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton should be anywhere near public office?
No.
Okay.
I think, I don't remember who it was. It was one of the philosophers said like, no one who's looking for it is fit to serve, right? That's the unfortunate nature is that.
Do you think Hillary
Clinton? We all probably know someone in our private lives who we would want to be president, but they don't run because who would want to deal with that?
Yeah. Do you think Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are lizards?
I do not. However, that's another thing that people talk about, and you can find plenty of evidence for that on YouTube if you go looking.
Okay,
that's the thing. You can find evidence for anything.
Right. Real quick. Okay. So, what is Unblinded, People's Money, Time, and Magic have to do with the Soviet Chess Club?
Okay. So I did some thinking about this in the shower last night.
Because this is now going to speak into what you're in and what this is.
Yes.
Like, here's the big unveil. Welcome to the Soviet Chess Club.
Yes. And I'm going to, there's a distinction about that, but I'll get into it. Yeah. So quickly, like the background, because you have to know a little bit about the whole world of this. Okay. Chess is a board game. I'm sure most of you know that. Chess has been played for like hundreds of years, thousands of years in different forms. It really only became a very competitive activity in the 1800s, the mid 1800s, when technology made it so that the best players, everyone knew who the best player around them was. But the players couldn't play each other because the world was a much bigger place then. There was no planes. So after the Industrial Revolution, players could travel quickly from America to England to Germany to Russia to play each other and determine who the best players were. Why am I saying that? Because best players in chess in the 1800s happened by accident. They just happened. Sometimes a kid picked up a chessboard and just was good at it. Completely by chance. That continued on until World War II. After World War II, during the Cold War, Russians, the Soviets, realized what a weapon sports could be on the world stage against America. You know that because you have the 1980 hockey jersey right behind you. Chess was one of those things that they took up as a sport, not as an art or a science. So going back a little bit, Russia has a long history of playing chess because Lenin was a big chess player. He was actually considered an expert, even by today's standards. So what's the point of all this? The point is, prior to World War II, there was only chess clubs, basically. A club is where players of varying skills go to play each other. That's it. There's no training. There's no anything. Players just go to play each other. They're whatever skill they are, and that's it. And they can talk to each other, but like there's no method of improving your chess game. You just go and you play for fun. You hang out. Chess club. It's exactly what it sounds like. And as I said, good players just happened to be born that way. The Soviet Union said, no, we can make a process out of this. So after World War II, they started teaching chess on a mass scale across the Soviet Union to like basically every kid. So that first they could find the kids that had natural talent. So think for a second about how many people in any population have amazing talent for something and never have the ability to even express that talent. A lot. And that happened a lot in America because chess was not taught on a mass scale. So every Russian kid learned how to play chess. Then you find all the talented kids. Then you take all the talented kids and you put them into the Russian chess school, which was not one school, it was many schools. It's like school in the theoretical sense, the broad sense. And they made chess what it became later, which was a grueling sport that you trained in. Prior to that, chess was something that like aristocrats did, kings did, rich people did. It was to like basically kind of be a snobby dick, like, and be smarter than everyone. Russians said, no, we're going to kick everyone else in the world's ass at this because we are going to breed players that do nothing but eat, sleep, and breathe chess for their entire childhoods and lives until they are the best. What was the end result of that? In 1962, in the World Championship, the sitting world champion was a Soviet, and 4 of his 8 challengers were from the Soviet Union. And there was really only one world champion throughout all of the Cold War who wasn't from the Soviet Union, who was Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer was one of those people that accidentally found chess. He happened to be given a chess set as a kid and took to the game and just taught himself. How many more Bobby Fischers would there have been had the population been given the opportunity and had America had the same system of producing chess players? So what does this all have to do with Unblinded? Unblinded is just the Soviet chess school for business. That's all it is. Before this, really, business success was kind of crapshoot. Was it not? You were there. And business success just happened. And it was impossible to replicate business success until, in our opinion, now. And in the opinion of many people on this call. That's where I was coming from. Is that we can automate and make process-specific business success. We can do that here at Unblinded.
The formula. And Ty, you've run around, and this is going to be final. Rob Gill, if he's out there, I'm going to bring you up in a second, Rob. Just for let's see if he's out there. So Tyler, what we're saying is that if you don't know the difference in correlation and causation, you could think that ClickFunnels will work for you because it worked for somebody else. You can think that the best way to build your business is by meditating on a mountaintop. You could think that by watching The Secret and hoping to manifest everything enough, it will just happen. And you've traveled, by the way, Tyler traveled the world with me.
Oh, yeah.
Tyler blown minds away in the Tony Robbins room. He had people that were from Silicon Valley say, like, Tyler, don't go to college, come work with me. Did that happen, bud?
Yeah.
Right.
Did.
And have you seen a lot of heartbreaking, certainly for me would be heartbreaking, dynamics with people who falsely correlated being inside of a personal development seminar, cheering, yelling, and jumping around to the creation of business success, the same way that people would think putting a spoon causes rain, the same way that people would think by hanging out in a chess club with their friends, BSing about chess and playing a little bit could compete with the Soviet chess school. Have you seen that mentality pervasively in rooms around the world?
All over the place. That's all it is. There's clubs. There's a lot of clubs. There's not that many schools for what we're doing here.
And so just as a quick truth fact checker, behind the scenes, what you've seen since birth in baseball, in youth sports, because you mentioned that sports wasn't necessarily your thing, you became an elite level baseball player. Did this formula have a direct causal relationship to your completely ridiculous success in comparison to your innate abilities? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes. I would not think it was an exaggeration to say I was one of the most unathletic, naturally born kids in my grade. So yeah, the formula was entirely responsible for that success.
And you became the only sophomore starter on a returning state championship high school baseball team, which you don't even like talking about anymore. But for the purposes of these people, that reality and the purpose of your life and what it stands for and the formula was utterly ridiculous to even conceive could have happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
So real quick, do we have Rob Gill? Stay with me, bud. Do we have Rob Gill?
I'm here, brother.
What are your takeaways from what you're hearing today, pal? And by the way, what do you like? Uncle Sugar's here, Ty. So Uncle Sugar.
What's up, Ty? How you doing?
Excellent. How are you, sir?
It's good to see you, my friend. You look awesome. You look great.
Thank you. I would love to see you, but
yes. A quick causation story, Sean. A quick causation story. When I was with May of 19, we were eating leaves off of a table that didn't have a plate. And I wasn't sure where Tyler stood in that, but within 60 seconds we were probably heading to my car on our way to McDonald's, only to come back with 60 McNuggets, all kinds of shakes and fries and
the cookie toast.
And by the way, the next day was the famous story when we went ziplining, and I happened to be, Tyler's partner, and he went 10 seconds ahead of me, and I finished 10 seconds before he did. That's when I was coming in hot. So there's causation for you. Tyler, I am so proud of who you are, brother. Wow.
Thank you.
Man, just the way you work and the way you see the world and the way you growing up as a what's called a coach's son, right? I think of Bobby Hurley, I think Junior I'm talking about. I think of Danny Hurley Jr. I could only make these assumptions from my world and the way I see things. And where you are at is incredible. When you first started the call, over your right shoulder, all you could see was the NK and the HOL. So my level 5 visual said, does it say drink alcohol or don't drink alcohol?
You are a perceptive man. It doesn't say don't drink it.
So, I was excited that you were going to be on the call today. And Sean, it's funny because on Friday you never mentioned election fraud. There was no confusion about what you were talking about. You were following the evidence, and you were so proud of what Tyler was talking about. And I don't know what's going to happen today or this week, or if any new information is going to come out. But yeah, listen, I think that the ability to be self-honest radically. I remember Sean would always talk about being radically self-honest early on in the game. and being able to really kind of, do the research and this is process mastery, self-mastery, right? Like this is where it comes down to understanding every little bit of not the way you see things, but also what people around you see, right? And wow, today was like a major just class and just unbelievable awesomeness is what I can think of right now.
Yeah.
And thank you for even picking me to talk to Tyler. Tyler, I'm so proud of you, brother. Wow, you're amazing. For
Thank
real.
you. Thank you.
Well, you've been a part of his life, Uncle Sugar, in a very meaningful
He's-
way. And
he
I'm
is-
thankful for that.
Yeah, thank you. Unbelievable. There's a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to take up too much time. It's just straight up. It's straight up facts, from his perspective, based on his research, which is he's looked at both sides, and you could say, hey, listen, CNN, MSNBC, fake news, I get it. Fox News, all of a sudden, they made a shift out of nowhere, like the night of the election, halfway through the election. So now you're looking at the YouTube, and I get it. There's people in their basement that put a picture behind them, right? And in that picture, they're just, acting like they're just giving information. And in the end, at the end of the day, we what are we going to do? We're going to just argue this left and right until there's real evidence. We got to figure it out. But it's not even about, and believe me, I was sad for 3 days when it appeared to me that Trump wasn't going to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got past it. I'm not going to be the person that rallies against it or blame or anything else. If Joe Biden's the president, I will support our president. That's just what it is. That's what my dad told me.
And I would say this, Rob, just so everybody's clear. If I had evidence and believed it was true, I would cause a revolution.
No question.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Ty, is that true?
Oh yeah, Caesar style or whomever.
I would die. I mean, Tyler watched me do it for a person.
I'd be there. I would die on the Hill. Like if we had to overthrow the government for corruption, like I'm there. 1776. That's what it is.
Yeah. We love this country. And if Joe Biden's the president, right, I pray every day on every decision that he makes from this point forward. And I will call him President Biden because he is the president. And we have a system. And if our system failed to the point that somebody like Joe Biden or Donald Trump become president, like if we failed, then what I'm standing for Unblinded is 4 years from now, that doesn't happen. And by the way, I don't want to be president, right? I want Tyler to be president in 2044. He ain't going to be the next president. But we're going to cause this system to work better. But that can't happen unless you make more money, right? Because we can't be helping others and get down to lever 6, a contribution, unless you got time and money. So we need to make you time and money and make it together so we can make more effective decisions and cause leadership, not just about political, about truth, about creating alternative platforms that you understand that what you're seeing is more truthful and accurate, and disrupt the media and solve for some of these big problems that are out there. And Ty, real final, because we talk about ego all the time. You got friends that don't get better at chess, right?
Yeah.
And why don't they get better? Final. Like Tyler's got a lot of good friends that probably drink some alcohol too. They're in college, but they don't get better at chess. And why don't they get better at chess?
Ego.
Say it 3 more times, please.
Ego, and ego. Ego is the only thing that can get in the way. Ego is the only thing that can ensure the continuation of distortion.
He's got out. Ego.
Yep.
Say it one more time, Ty. What the whole sentence. Ego is the only thing
that can ensure the continuation of distortion, meaning you have to get rid of your ego in order to dig through your own beliefs. Otherwise, you're never going to let, and that applies, first of all, to like political beliefs. Second, to your own skills. You won't grow your business if your ego's in the way. Like we were talking yesterday about bar rescue, show where people who have failing bars get help from an expert. What's happening in every episode? The bar owner's ego is through the roof, and they can't even look at their own numbers with objective reality. Like their own numbers on paper don't even carry the same meaning. That's how distorted their ego has made like their entire method of processing reality. It's gone. So why don't my friends get better at chess? Ego. They think they know better than the experts. And that's something I didn't do because I grew up modeling. which is something I'm grateful for, thanks to you. You can't teach yourself. You have to learn from somebody. Like, it would take 1,000 years to teach yourself chess, what can be taught in a month on YouTube. You'd need so much time to figure it out. And that applies to your business here at Unblinded as well.
Yeah. And Ty, what do you think? Final. You know, we've known each other for a minute. You've watched this. What do you think my purpose is with Unblinded? I don't think I've asked you that question ever before. I'm curious.
No,
What
I think
my purpose is.
so. I think your purpose, well, there's many. This serves many outcomes, right?
Mhm.
I think you want to talk like big picture, like Elon Musk on Mars, big picture.
Little picture and big picture. Yeah.
All right, little picture is ensuring that the people in this community have the access to make all the money and have all the time and magic that they want. All of it. That is the short term. All the freedom, the financial freedom, the emotional freedom, because that's part of what we're talking about today is thought freedom, right?
Mhm.
It's all kinds. The big picture is to fundamentally change the world that we live in, to make it, to have that for everyone, to create a society where this community has an impact for good, for improving standards of living, charity, political impact, all those things.
Well, thank you, bud. And I am so proud of you because you're crushing it in school. Your evolution as a chess player has been nothing short of mind numbing for where you stand in the world now as a chess player.
But don't not. A lot of these people have seen the Queen's Gambit on Netflix now, and that's mind numbing.
Right. Got it. Well, your acceleration into the equation of actually being a legitimate chess player that is bordering on like that beat a master who teaches online. Is that fair?
Yes, I've been a master.
Yes.
That's right.
So the point of all this is you were given, and this is the whole point generationally, like you're watching this happen. Tyler was scuba diving, you know, with sharks at 10. He was leading the pack in us snorkeling at 6 years old with his sister, one of his sisters, Emma, on my back, and Courtney holding the other hand. Ty, we've done some crazy stuff, have we not?
Yeah. Yes.
Like leading me down double black diamonds and all those things.
Yeah.
And all of that, like our jumping in the ocean together in LBI, burn our fears in the fire, have been to suppress our ego, have been to open up a growth mindset, have been to train in the formula in self-process and influence mastery. And Ty, your radical pursuit of truth stands as an inspiration in the world. It inspires me. It inspires me. And so every time I think about ego and distorting something, I think about your radical pursuit of truth. And you are not squandering, right, the unbelievable life and position you started with. Because so many people don't get to ski all over the world when they're 3, 4, 5, and 6. They don't get to go and travel. They don't get to fist bump Tony Robbins and have Tony essentially giving you the nod, knowing who and what you are in the room. Like that's happened. Yes?
The man has almost dislocated my shoulder after more than a few high fives.
Right. And you've been in Tony Robbins' house and backyard, right? Like, and you're not squandering it. And so what I offer to everybody here today, and Tyler's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect at all. But we're aspiring to truth. And let today's call stand, one, on the macro level for aspiring to truth. Now, we could all debate what the top 7 in order selection criteria for president is, for CEO is, whether we should drop an F word 2 times a year on the huddle or 17 times a day or never. We could debate all of those things. But there's a difference between subjective reality and assessment and objective truth. Like it is Monday. That's a fact. right? How we should select our president and the top 7 criteria, that's subjective. And our ability to not think that somebody's lying and harm them when it's subjective, right? Like you can make a subjective argument between Joe Biden or Donald Trump, period. That's a fact. And if you think that's not true, your ego's in the way. You can make a subjective argument that you should vote for neither, like Tyler. Those are all subjective arguments. Like, you're nuts if you think that if we don't have Donald Trump as president, the world ends. And if we don't have Joe Biden as president, the world ends. Those are both ridiculous. They're ridiculous. And if you allow yourself to step into the frame of the ridiculous in the subjective, you're not causing leadership in a healthy way for the future. And if you're attacking, blaming, and judging people for what they believe in the subjective, in the arguable, it's a problem. So if I'm like, yeah, if you voted for Joe Biden, you are, blah, blah. My dad did. My mom voted for Donald Trump. My dad voted for Joe Biden. And they both think the other is nuts. Nuts. I don't think either are nuts. I think they're both nuts, and I love them for thinking the other one is nuts. That's what we're here to talk about. And then objective reality is how much money is in your bank account? How many sales meetings you're having? How many speaking engagements? How many ecosystem mergers? And the pull away from that objective is your ego. And if you want to be in a chess club, you're never going to actualize all the things you can actualize, because everything you want to actualize every day. When I say crazy things like, Ty, when I put out a crazy proclamation about a thing, do I have a very unique commitment to bring about the proclamation? Like when I'm like, we're going to build a club baseball team, we're going to win baseball heaven. Did you even think that was going to happen?
No. Yeah, we did. Quickly.
And did you think it could ever happen?
No, never.
Did you think I was nuts?
Oh, yeah. In the beginning, for sure. Yeah, totally.
All right. So the point is that we are never endingly going to seek to have the greatest digital marketing space, training platforms, influence training. Ty, you've been around the block. Where, really quickly, would you compare my influencing skill sets out there in the world to anything you've ever seen? Courtrooms, people, lawyers, places, coaches, people, just like your reality, watching it day-to-day, minute-to-minute with waiters, people, places, stuff, etc.
That I've personally experienced, like one. I mean, it's not like 1, 2, and 3. Like it's not close. It's just not like I don't know anyone who affects results as quickly with other people in my life. And I think everyone who knows you would say that. Right. Rob.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I have to go back and I think of St. Anthony's in the 70s and 80s, Sean. They didn't have a gym. They practiced in a bingo hall. They've produced 6 first-round draft picks, 5 mythical national championships, over 142 Division I scholarships, over 1,000 wins, the winningest high school coach in history. And by the way, he's in the Hall of Fame. And because he had a process, and to Tyler's point, the level of energy and competition that entered that space elevated everybody. And it wasn't just that. It was the micro distinctions of how he broke the game down, cinch by the inch, hard by the yard. I saw it. I was there. I witnessed it. And I'm seeing it again 35 years later. I am not confused, straight up.
Yeah. And just so we sit in the space of truth, for you, or empathy and Unblinded, I want to quit every day. Right? I'm studying David Goggins' level self-mastery, and I'm going to bring him into Unblinded because I've never met a more straight up lunatic in my life. I think I'm a lunatic. I needed a bigger lunatic. He's a bigger lunatic. The guy like urinated bile after running a 100-mile race on 3 days and would have died before stopping. Right? So I am clear that innately we as humans want to quit. Our minds lie to us all the time because, as Tyler said, we have an animal brain built to survive, not thrive. Right? So yeah, yesterday I'm like, why am I doing, like every day I ask myself, like I'm working on conditioning myself to not ask it. I get really tired. It's crazy. I get frustrated.
Stupid things happen. You know, people text me in the middle of the night, like, I'm a co-founder of Unblinded. Like, there's lunatics that are out there, right? Craziness happens. I'm like, do I need this shit? These lunatics in my life? Tyler, you think I should have a security guard, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been about that for a while.
Right. And so, like, so it's natural for you to want to quit. It's natural for you to want to stop. But Ty, the stories we tell about the freedom of choice, like, have we had freedom of choice to do whatever the hell we've wanted in your lifetime?
Yeah, we've done everything we wanted to do. We're very fortunate.
But have we loved people and given that gift to other people? Like,
Yeah.
how many of a bunch of your friends I've taught to scuba? We've taught to scuba dive. True?
Yep, a bunch.
We brought to Grand Cayman. Like,
skiing, whatever. Yeah.
Like, the impact of lives is what we're creating.
Mhm.
And so the bottom line of this is you're going to want to quit all the time. There is a formula. And that's what Herb Brooks did to win 1980 Miracle on Ice. And it's what the Soviet Chess Club did to dominate the world. And our intention is going to be to cause love, cause positivity, seek enlightenment and truth in positive, amazing, incredible ways with love and empathy, with the absence of blame and judgment. But that's on the back end of having the credibility because you know how to build and grow your business. And by the way, if all you want to do is hang out here and have connection and love, you can. You don't have to do all this. You're still welcome. Just don't screw it up for somebody else. Just don't lie and distort for other people. Don't discourage people from achieving their dreams. Don't have them put spoons under their pillow thinking it's going to cause the harvest. Don't be doing that, right? There's a formula, there's a way, there's a method. And we are the Navy SEALs, the Soviet Chess Club, the Miracle on Ice. Like, that is who and what we are, to be causes for amazingness. Ty, final words from you today, bud.
Final words, just I want to say it was Bobby Fischer who said, all that matters on the chessboard is good moves, which is to say, make better moves and learn how to make better moves. That's what it's objective. Get your ego out of the way and get your skills up. Get your reps in.
That's it, brother. Adam Gugino, final.
I didn't think anybody could come on and be more profound than you, Sean and Tyler. Wow, amazing, mind-numbing. I think we need a lot more of you, my friend, and you got my vote for sure.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, love you, Fernando. Final.
Everything Adam said, Rob Gill, Mr. Callaghy, and Tyler Callaghy, thank you for your constant pursuit of truth. And I want to just anchor in, yes, Unblinded would truly appreciate some more Tyler, and we'll go there.
No, thank you. Sales Sorceress, you want to jump in if she's still here with any, is Bella out there to unmute? Just a quick, unique, fun perspective on this morning, if she's out there. No, she's out there still.
Give a sec. And
good. Good morning.
Good morning. Any thoughts on this morning's huddle from your unique perspective and vantage point?
That was quite incredible because my version of research is whatever comes up on the first page of Google. I am very, very impressed with the amount of research, and I am not surprised, and it's been quite a pleasure to experience you this morning, Tyler. Thank you so much. And, now the only thought running through my head is, damn, I need to get better at chess now.
And what do you think of Tyler's sign behind his head that Rob Gill was referencing? What does it say, Tyler? You want to show?
It says, do you think doing alcohol is cool?
Doing alcohol?
The alcohol, yes.
Got it.
Rob Gill. So yes. So not all things are perfect in the world. So
not all things are perfect. Doing alcohol.
And Bella Verita, you're not hanging out with my son. Thank you very much. And you're not going to Maryland, and you're not corrupting him, and he's not corrupting you. So that's all.
Says you. Now you have just put out a challenge. You know better than this, Sean, because you know I win challenges against you. Tyler, do you know that I am the only person that's won a bet against your dad in the last decade? Right here.
Really?
Yes. Do you know what he had? Did you tell him this?
I did not tell him this.
He had to go, he lost a bet to me, and then he had to go an entire day without doing his hair or wearing a hat or a hoodie all day. He's laughing. Yeah, I won that bet. All video calls, hair is a mess.
I can't believe he survived.
He did. He survived.
Tyler, have you ever seen me go a day in public without a hat on or my hair like combed in? Like
In in public, no, God forbid. In private, it's worth mentioning.
It was public on video calls all day.
That
happens.
That's like just unheard
That's
of.
being at cause. That's all I'm saying. So it sounds like you just put another challenge out to me, Sean Callagy.
Yeah, you better. She might be in that dorm room by the end of the night. She might be in that dorm room by midnight, Tyler. You better be ready.
Bill, like you and Nicole are not turning like Maryland into like an Almost Famous movie. Like that's not happening. Right?
It could happen. It could happen. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning and sharing all of your wisdom. It was definitely appreciated.
Yeah, because 8:30, Bella, Rob, Adam, Fernando, 8:30 is not Tyler's friend.
No, 8:30 is the middle of the night in Maryland. That's the crack of dawn.
Yes, but he's maintaining his grades, so like we're all good. Not only maintaining, he's crushing everything. He got 100 in his business law exam. Yes, you're my son. I love you. I'm proud of you. It's unbelievable. Right? Crazy. Right. So Ty, love you, pal. I couldn't be more proud of who you are and what you believe. And by the way, everything subjectively in the world, Tyler and I don't believe in all the same things subjectively exactly. So I love you. I couldn't be more proud of your radical search of truth, your individualism, and the leadership you're causing in the world. Because as much fun as you're having and what you're doing, you're causing people to think differently. You're causing truth. You're causing ego subjugation on a macro and a micro level.